Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack something today that affects millions of us every single year, but honestly, most people completely misunderstand it. We tend to think, oh, I'm a little hot, I'll just grab a quick rest, chug some cold water, and boom, magically fixed. But what's actually happening inside your body is this high-stakes mechanical balancing act. And don't worry, we aren't using any complicated medical jargon today. You definitely do not need to be a medical student to follow along with this. Instead, we're going to break down exactly how heat exhaustion works by looking at a super relatable everyday scenario. So let's just dive right in and see how a completely normal afternoon can escalate into this invisible, desperate battle between our mental willpower and our biological reality.
So here's the big question for today. What actually happens inside your body when you push yourself way too hard in the hot sun? I mean, it's a situation almost all of us have been in at some point, right? Maybe you were doing some intense yard work on a weekend, playing a really competitive sport, or working a tough outdoor job. To really get the mechanics of heat exhaustion without getting bogged down in thick, boring textbooks, let's look at a sailor named Ravi. Ravi's story is going to be our guide today. We're shifting entirely away from abstract concepts to look at the incredibly practical reality of a guy just working on a ship's deck. Just imagine that environment for a second. It's a massive metal deck, practically baking in the sun. It's radiating heat from the bottom up, while the sun is just beating down from above. This extreme environment is about to put Ravi's body to the absolute ultimate test.
Let's look at how Ravi's day actually unfolds. It kicks off on a blazing hot afternoon. Ravi is out there working on the deck, no shade whatsoever. Just that direct, punishing heat we just talked about. And he isn't just standing around. As the hours tick by, he's doing relentless, heavy lifting. Specifically, he's hauling these thick, incredibly heavy ropes back and forth across the metal deck. So as a direct result of that intense environmental heat and the grueling physical labor, Ravi's core temperature starts to shoot up. Naturally, his body kicks in its cooling mechanism. He starts sweating, heavily. Now at this stage, everything seems totally normal. It's exactly what the human body is supposed to do. But here's a wild fact you might not know. Under conditions like this, a human being can sweat up to 1.4 liters of fluid in just a single hour. To put that into perspective, that's like pouring out a massive bottle of water. Just gone. Every single hour. There's a very real invisible clock ticking down here.
And here is where the conflict starts. While Ravi's mind is completely locked onto his goal, just pushing through the discomfort to finish the job quickly, his body is dealing with a very different, very dangerous reality. Like any dedicated worker, he decides to just push through the pain. He doesn't stop to take a break in the shade, and way more importantly, he doesn't stop to replenish his fluids. He's trapped in that mindset we all know too well, telling yourself, just 10 more minutes, just one more task, then I'll rest. But while he's thinking that, his body is rapidly losing massive, totally unsustainable amounts of water and essential salts through all that sweating. It is a silent drain of his vital resources. And as you'll see, ignoring that biological reality and letting your stubbornness take the wheel, that is an incredibly dangerous game to play with your own biology.
Okay, before we see exactly what happens to Ravi next, let's take a step back and break down the internal mechanics of what's actually failing here. Think of your body as having its own built-in air conditioning unit. Step 1, the body gets overheated from the brutal environment and the physical work. Step 2, that excessive sweating kicks into overdrive, and it's removing not just water, but crucial salts from the system. People always forget about the salt part, but salt is literally the electrical wiring that lets your nerves communicate with your muscles. Without it, the signals just start to misfire. And finally, step 3. Because those essential fluids and salts are entirely depleted, the body simply cannot cool itself properly anymore. The system essentially breaks down. It literally runs out of the fuel it uses to regulate temperature. This isn't some complex mystery disease. It's a straightforward mechanical failure of your body's AC and electrical systems. And believe me, when that system begins to fail, your body does not stay quiet. It sounds a massive internal alarm. As Ravi keeps hauling those heavy ropes, his brain senses that his water and blood volume levels are dropping to dangerously low thresholds. And it doesn't just send a polite little hint to Ravi. It practically shouts a desperate command, "Drink water." This is exactly why Ravi suddenly becomes intensely, almost painfully thirsty. Thirst isn't just a minor inconvenience or a dry mouth, right? It's a critical neurological signal. It's your brain's emergency response system begging you to restock the supplies before major organs start shutting down. Now, the trap a lot of people fall into here is trying to silence that alarm with a sugary energy drink or an iced coffee, which actually just dehydrates you even further. Ravi needs the right fuel. But as we know, his stubbornness is still winning, and he is trying to push through.
Let's connect the dots between what Ravi is outward feeling right now and the internal mechanical causes breaking down inside him. First up, Ravi starts to feel this overwhelming, trembling, extreme weakness. Why is this happening? Well, because his muscles literally aren't getting enough water. And more importantly, those electrical salt signals are gone, so the muscles simply cannot contract properly. Next, a brutal pounding headache sets in. Think of this like a car running dangerously low on engine oil. Severe dehydration means his overall blood volume is dropped, which simply means less blood and water are effectively reaching his brain. And finally, he gets hit with a wave of severe nausea. This isn't some random stomach bug. His rising core body temperature is directly affecting his gastrointestinal tract, making him feel completely sick. So these aren't just random unlucky feelings. They are the direct, logical results of his body running completely on empty.
As things escalate, it builds to one of the most recognizable, yet kind of strange, signs of heat exhaustion. Have you ever touched someone who's severely overheated? And ironically, their skin actually feels really pale, cool, and sticky? We call this clammy skin. And it is an incredible, dramatic biological defense mechanism. Ravi's body is desperately trying to save itself through a triage system. It literally steals blood away from internal organs, like the stomach, which totally explains that severe nausea we just talked about, and it reroutes that blood straight to the surface of the skin. At the exact same time, it squeezes out whatever extra sweat it can possibly muster. The ultimate goal here is to force rapid cooling through evaporation right on the skin's surface. So, while his internal core temperature is dangerously high, basically cooking his organs, his outside skin gets completely pale and wet to the touch. It's a brilliant, desperate, last-ditch effort by his biology to drop the heat.
Fortunately, the trembling and nausea are finally enough. Ravi listens to his body, and the fix is wonderfully straightforward. There is no hospital required if you catch it in time. Just these exact, deliberate steps. First, remove the heat source immediately. Ravi sits in the shade. That stops the radiant sun from beating down on him and halts the temperature rise. Second, he's got to fix the internal shortage. He drinks water, but crucially, it's water mixed with ORS, oral rehydration salts. This is the absolute magic bullet. If you only drink plain water when you're this depleted, you can actually dilute the tiny amount of remaining salt in your body, which can sometimes make you feel significantly worse. The ORS replaces both the water and the electrical salts, fixing that chemical imbalance in his muscles and brain. Finally, he rests. By stopping the heavy lifting, cooling down, and properly replacing those fluids, Ravi's biological systems slowly boot back up, and he safely recovers.
It's truly amazing how logically and systematically the human body operates when you really look under the hood, isn't it? We've seen how a hot environment, heavy physical work, and simply ignoring hydration can lead to this massive cascade of mechanical failures. From muscle weakness due to a lack of salt, to a pounding headache from low blood volume, all the way to that desperate, clammy skin. The science of heat exhaustion really is that simple. You lose more water and salt than you take in, and your body's cooling system completely crashes. Ravi's story clearly shows us the internal warning signs, and more importantly, the surprisingly simple steps to recover using shade and rehydration salts, which leaves us with this final thought for you to take into your own daily life. Your body knows exactly how to save itself from the heat, and it will give you all the warning signs. But will you be smart enough to listen when it tells you to stop? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay cool out there, and I'll catch you next time.